I just have very much so taught myself to focus on what deserves my attention. I understand I have X amount of energy a day and I want to put it towards positivity. So before I ever respond to a negative comment, if I am tempted to, I'll respond to like 10 positive ones.
That is Lily Singh. She's one of the biggest stars on YouTube. She turned her own videos into a massive career. So we're going to talk about how she got started, how she deals with negative comments online, and how her videos have changed over the years. She's also got a brand new book out. I'm Tom Power. You're watching Q.
It's about that moment knowing that you have to do the most terrible, awful thing because it might be the right thing in order to recover.
Ben Worcester from the band Said the Whale on breaking up a relationship for the sake of saving it. Ben's band is known for upbeat indie rock, but on their new record, there's as much joy as there is pain. You'll hear a performance and chat with the Vancouver trio.
People are always like, oh, what's Pharrell telling you these days? And it's like, I haven't really spoken to him. So it is an incredibly strange thing to have this powerful connection to somebody I don't know at all.
And Maggie Rogers, a singer-songwriter that proves someone can change your life and still be a stranger. Maggie hit it big last year after a chance encounter with a music mogul. All this plus a live performance from Future Islands and a feature chat with Juno-winning cartoonist Jeff Lemire. Today on Q. So I know this is an exaggeration, but it seems these days the universe is divided into two camps. Those who don't know who Lily Singh is, and those who can't believe you don't know who Lily Singh is. Lily Singh, a.k.a. Superwoman, is a comedian and singer and actress and motivational speaker. And if you've seen her at all, the most likely place is on YouTube, where her videos collectively have more than 1 billion views. Forbes lists her as the 3rd top-grossing YouTube celebrity last year. And for someone whose empire is all about new media, she's gone old school and just written a book, How to Be a Bouse, a guide to conquering life. We were lucky to have caught Lily Singh while she's on an international tour that will hit 12 countries. It may not be on YouTube, but check this out. How's it being back in Toronto?
It is amazing. I love being back in Toronto. I mean, of course I moved to LA, but home is still Toronto, still my favorite place, still where my family and home is.
What's the one thing you do when you come back to Toronto?
Eat all of my mom's food.
Yeah.
Because in LA, there's just so many apps that deliver food to your house.
Right.
And I'm always ordering food, so I just eat my mom's food. Fresh, home-cooked food.
I know what you mean. There's nothing people often ask. I'm from Newfoundland. People will ask me, "Oh yeah, what do you do when you go home?" And I go, "I don't want to eat anywhere but except for with
Exactly. I want to eat.
I want my mom's fish cakes."
That's where I go anywhere.
You had
That's
you had an event last night in Toronto for your book. You get up on stage, you talk to the audience, you do a Q&A. I know you do a lot of these, but I'm really curious as someone whose work is for many, many years done solo, like done on your own, and millions of people get to watch later. It's kind of like doing a radio show because you don't really see the impact of your work.
Right.
What's it like standing up in front of a live audience?
I personally love it. I mean, I know a lot of creators they say like, I feel more comfortable behind a screen, and I'm comfortable with that. I love being on a stage because exactly what you said. When I'm doing my YouTube videos, I don't get to see that reaction in real time. I have to wait and read a sea of comments that are promoting people's channels and tearing me down or saying nice things. But when I'm on stage, I can see people reacting in real time, smiling to what I'm actually saying, and sometimes crying at what I'm saying. And that's really exciting. I like evoking emotion.
So I think the real question I have here today is why a book at all? I mean, I want to talk a little bit about the book, but I was kind of surprised when someone who makes all these incredible YouTube videos and is very much has 2 feet firmly planted in what we call new media. This whole interview is making me feel like I'm 88 years old. By the way, I think we're like the same age, but I feel like I'm 104. Why a book?
That's a really good question. I love YouTube. I love the digital space, but I'm always looking for challenges. I want to step outside my comfort zone, and the book has allowed me to write in a way I've never written before. So when I write my YouTube videos, I'm thinking about attention span. I'm thinking about when a punchline has to go somewhere and what an audience is going to like in 4 minutes. The book was my opportunity to be really vulnerable in ways I haven't been before and talk about stories way more thoroughly and extract lessons from my life I have never been able to communicate as effectively in a video.
That's so interesting. Storytelling for YouTube is a very, very different medium,
yes,
hey?
100%. Because you got to grasp people's attention, and they won't have as much attention as they would while holding a book when they're watching YouTube.
You know, you dedicate this book to a person you were 6 years ago. You wrote, "I told you to keep going, thanks for listening. Tell me about that person you were 6 years ago.
Yes, that person I was 6 years ago was not a boss. She was sad. It's actually why I started making YouTube videos. I was sad, and I was trying to be happy. And so I remember being in such a low point in my life and not having any ambitions and not wanting to do anything, literally the exact opposite of everything I describe in this book. And somehow, some way, I dug deep and held on and decided to do something with it. And I created this book many years later. And so it is dedicated to me because I am my own best friend and I do love myself, every facet of it.
But in speaking to yourself, you're also speaking to those who may feel that way.
100%. Everyone who has been, and I feel like that's almost every human, has been in that period of life where they just feel like giving up and they don't feel like they have that strength inside them to keep going. It is dedicated to that stage of your life.
It's some really powerful moments in the book, I notice, where you actually compare and contrast. So if you're listening to this, I'm speaking with Lily Singh, and in her book, How to Be a Boss, there's literally 2 diary entries, which, I should let you say it, there are 2 diary entries which contrast one another. Tell me more about that.
Yes, they're called Out of the Blue sections, and I wanted to include those sections because I'm going to be real. I wrote an advice book, but I don't think people should take advice from me because I have 11 million subscribers. Like, that's cool, but that's not why you should take advice from me. I included the Out of the Blue sections because it's 2 pages. On the left is a blue page, and it recalls a day from my life that was very depressing and dark. And then contrasting is a yellow page right next to it, which takes a chapter out of my life as Superwoman, as a success, as a career that I love. And you kind of, as a reader, go from left to right and think, wow, how did she get from this place to this place? And that's what the rest of the book is. It is me using every guide I'm teaching you about in the book to get from the left page to the right page.
What's it like going back and reading those old entries, those old journals, those old things that, I mean, obviously you feel very good because you managed to overcome a lot of the problems that you expressed, but it can't be easy to read them.
No, it's horrendous, actually, absolutely horrendous. It was also very difficult to record the audiobook because
What do you mean?
The audiobook in itself was just not fun.
Yeah, a lot of talking.
In a studio for 2 hours by myself, very taxing on my voice and my body, and also learned, I actually can't speak English well at all. And as a Canadian,
I feel that way every day. By the way,
and as a Canadian, I also pronounce words way differently than my U.S. Producer that was in the room correcting me on everything I'm saying. And I was like, oh my goodness! But reading out loud those excerpts of times when I was such a sad person was so strange because I felt like I almost could not even recognize that person anymore. By the way, recognize is one of the words I couldn't say in the audiobook.
What do you mean?
You actually have to say recognize.
Recognize?
Yes, that's how you actually say the word. It's
Not
weird.
recognize?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't
Who
like
says that, right?
No, I don't like that.
Come on,
You know
whatever.
what? This is the CBC. We're going to set it out right now. It's recognize.
Recognize. Boom.
Done. At one point in your book, you write, when people ask me what I'm most grateful for, they get confused when I reply depression. And later you say, everything I have today, every video, success, and opportunity is the direct result of taking that pain and turning it into something positive. And that's comedy. And we talk about reading those books about when you were very sad. I know you have a psychology degree, and I know I've read interviews with you. I read one even last night where you said that it's quite inspiring to you when people come up to you and say they were encouraged to get help because of something you said to them. Are you ever concerned that some of the message in the book might be, depression can be fought through sheer will, especially when you have a very large and often young following that looks up to you?
Of course, of course. I mean, I have disclaimers in the beginning of the book for a reason, and the disclaimers say, take what you will from this book, but this is not the end-all, be-all of answers. I want you to extract every positive thing you can. And I always preach in my videos that, hey, this worked for me, but this is not a universal law that's going to work for everyone. I'm really trying to preach self-love and self-esteem, but if you need to get help, there is absolutely no shame in doing so. And I think even discussing depression, especially growing up in a South Asian community, is just so important because I can hope at least that my work takes away some of the taboo associated with that.
I had a friend of mine the other day tell her family that she was experiencing depression, and she could tell that the older generations of the family, and we're from a pretty rural place out in Newfoundland, they had a hard time even understanding what it was. I can only imagine there was a certain vulnerability in expressing that at all in front of your family. Much less 11 million people. But sometimes the family's the hardest part.
100%. It definitely was the hardest part. And it's all makes it worth it because at a lot of my meet and greets, I do have fans coming up to me saying, because of you, I actually embraced this and I talked about it and I told someone. And that for me is a huge one.
Yeah, because there's there's evidence based, there's medication in some cases, there's talk therapy, there's cognitive behavioral therapy. These things can all help. You're not concerned that you're giving people if people can't get through it through sheer will, if they're somehow not up to it.
Yeah, then they should definitely get help. I think I'm talking about my story and what works for me here, but by no means is that a universal fix for everyone.
You're this huge internet brand. You still put out videos on your YouTube channel every
Yes.
Monday and Thursday. When you started out, you were making these videos by yourself. And I got to go to some of the early videos last night and have a look at them.
Oh, no.
But that's interesting. You say, oh, no, because now they're obviously a lot more polished. They're a lot more elaborate. And I'll say the stakes are higher when you have 11 million people watching you. How has that changed?
Well, the production level of my videos has changed simply because I have finally come to terms with I don't know how to use a camera.
Right.
And there's someone out there that can use a camera better than me.
Yeah.
But it's also, I'm getting a lot more busy. Nowadays, YouTube is very much so a business. It wasn't that way when I started.
Does that take something away from it?
I think, it takes something away, but it also adds something.
What do you mean?
I started making YouTube videos because I was sad. And almost every one of my peers that started making YouTube videos at that same time was because they were messed up in some way.
Yeah.
They had anxiety. They didn't know how to talk to people. They made YouTube videos. Yeah. Nowadays, people will come up to me and say they want to make YouTube videos as a career. They want to make money off YouTube. When they grow up, they want to be a YouTuber. Like, that never existed when I was younger. And so it's definitely become more of a business, which is exciting because it's so new and it's a path we can create and it's so entrepreneurial and it's great in that sense. But yeah, it does also add a lot of pressure to what you do because now it's an income and now it's a brand and now it's things you have to consider about what you say and what you do and how you carry yourself.
Well, but I have to imagine it's a lot easier to take risks when you have 150 followers, much less when you are on the side of a bus and you are in many ways seen, Lily, as the poster child for YouTube in some ways. You're used in a lot of their advertisements. Is it harder to take risks when you have this brand surrounding you?
Honestly, not really, because my content is pretty family friendly to begin with. I'm a pretty family friendly person by nature, and so the risks I take will usually be with just creative ideas that are never really offensive in any way. And so there's a lot of times where I've released videos and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna try something new. Oh, okay, it sucked. That didn't work. Let me try something else. So I feel like I'm still very able to take risks, if not with videos and with things like writing a book.
The part of the book, before we turned the microphones on, we talked a little bit about, I really enjoyed the part about negative comments on the internet. And I think that's something that I really struggle with because I don't think it's entirely natural to open up your phone and read not so nice things about yourself, so it gives you a lot of anxiety. I think anyone who's read the comments, especially on YouTube, know it can get really, really nasty. And you say in the book that you also used to read every comment. So how do you handle negative comments now?
Well, I still read almost every comment, even till this day. I have first of all, let me preface this by saying that anyone who says they are never affected by a hate comment is lying. Everyone's got to be affected. There's always one comment that really stings you. I just have very much so taught myself to focus on what deserves my attention. I understand I have X amount of energy a day and I want to put it towards positivity. So before I ever respond to a negative comment, if I am tempted to, I'll respond to 10 positive ones.
What I find really interesting about what you do is that it's at the end of the day, even though there's this huge machine behind it, it's ultimately very grassroots. You speak directly to an audience without a middleman. And in many of your videos, you share experiences that anyone can relate to. 6 stages of having a crush, how to make a sandwich. But I have to ask, now that you're living in L.A. and I see you hanging out with Drake and MIA and Jimmy Fallon on The Tonight Show, do you ever worry about losing the relatability to the audience that you're speaking with?
This is so funny you asked this because I'll tell you a story right now. One of my team members gets so annoyed at me that I go grocery shopping. He's sitting right over there. He gets so annoyed at me when I go grocery shopping because he's like, there's an app for that. You can just order it. And I'm like, I need to do these things because that's where I get my content from. So I know I do The Tonight Show and I know I get to hang with all these people that maybe my audience can't relate to, but I'm still talking about relationships and parents and shopping and dressing rooms and all those things. And so I try to experience as much as that as I can.
Why is it important you still talk about those things? Why is it important you stay relatable?
Because I think that's what makes comedy great. I think comedy is at its peak when someone can watch something and think, oh, I thought I was the only one. And I had no idea other people were weird, just like how I'm weird. I think everyone recognizing we're all weird is great. And I think that's what brings people together.
It's interesting, you know. I think in the early days of YouTube, we were talking about this yesterday, and I don't know if you're old enough listening to this to remember like those first days of YouTube, and you just kind of open it up, and it'd just be a bunch of videos of just either folks falling off skateboards, or
cat videos,
and people just talking in front of their. And as you mentioned, they were just a bunch of weirdos, just trying to get something out there.
Yeah.
Now it's where people go, as you mentioned, to try and make something of themselves. And it's also a place that's been taken over by, in many ways, corporations. You know, you'll see major networks, major advertisers have videos and have sponsored videos up there. It's not exactly the grassroots platform that it used to be. So I guess as a YouTuber, and arguably the most famous one, is YouTube still the place for someone just in their house trying to make a video in the bedroom and make something cool?
Absolutely. I think YouTube is a place for all of the above. If you want to talk directly to your camera and just let your feelings out, you can do it. If you want to make more produced content, you can do it. Even to go back to your point of, you know, the corporations that have branded videos, the great thing about YouTube is that the creator is in control. Although, they're, following talking points and getting paid to do something. I've done many brand deals, and there is no person blocking me from my audience, and therefore I will be very selective with who I work with and what I say. And so it's great in that sense when no one is blocking the upload button, and I think it's a place for everyone.
Is that the reason that even though you're writing books and you're going on TV and you're getting offered parts of movies, you're going to still do YouTube videos?
Well, I'm still going to do YouTube videos because I believe in the digital space so much. You know, I started in 2010, and I had to work it the whole way of convincing people that YouTube is a thing and should be taken seriously. Now, we're in a great place where people see the value of the digital community, but it wasn't always like that, and I am loyal to it. I believe in it. I think it's a testament to the fact that people like The Rock have a YouTube channel now. Shay Mitchell has a YouTube channel. A lot of traditional celebrities are jumping on the bandwagon of having a digital presence, and that makes me very, very happy, and I believe in it, so I don't want to abandon it.
Lily Singh, congratulations on the book.
Thank you.
It's fantastic.
I hope you enjoy it.
I probably don't need to tell you that not every band out there becomes astronomically famous. You can tour for years without getting rich or especially well-known, and that's okay. You're still happy because you're doing what you love. For years, Future Islands was that band. After more than a decade together, touring and touring, they figured that was pretty much their fate. But then this happened. That is Future Islands performing on The Late Show with David Letterman in 2014. It wasn't being on Letterman that made the group famous. It was because that performance was unlike anything that had hit that stage before. And that's the Ed Sullivan stage. That's the stage where the Beatles made their debut on American TV. That video of the performance of Future Islands blew up online, and suddenly this working band was a quote-unquote overnight success. Future Islands' fifth studio album is called The Far Field, and they performed a song from it not that long ago. Check this out. Still to come on Q, Maggie Rogers sits down to explain how her brush with fame echoed into the future. But first, we've got a performance and a chat with Said the Whale about the latest record, As Long As Your Eyes Are Wide. Do you have a favorite band or songwriter who writes from such a personal place that their life's tragedies and their victories kind of feel like your own?
My sweet light, sweet love of mine.
Well, after this, you might have another. Vancouver's Said the Whale have spent a decade crafting danceable, catchy indie rock. Songs that celebrated the joy of life while hinting about the darkness behind the shadows. But on their new record, As Long As Your Eyes Are Wide, the darkness, the things about life that we don't want to talk about, well, that's what takes center stage. As Long As Your Eyes Are Wide is out now. And right now, I'm pleased to show you Said the Whale on Q.
My sweet light, sweet love of mine, might never again feel like it's the right time. If it's the end, well, let's cross that line. Let us step into the darkness. Let's step into the darkness. I was a ghost. You were the fear of God. All of my shrines, all broken hearts and wind chimes. I was alive, just waiting for the hand of time. All of my ghosts went up in smoke and through the window I heard you singing in the street last night, singing my song, live long for the sweet life. I started singing but the words felt so wrong, singing that song in the darkness feels so right.
Tell me a little bit about Step Into the Darkness.
Step into the darkness. It comes from kind of a dark place, but trying to maintain positivity, and it's a strong message to my love, to my dear girlfriend Alexandra, who I ended up breaking up with after 6 years and having to figure out some stuff within myself, and then we got back together. But it's about that moment, knowing that you have to do the most terrible, awful thing because it might be the right thing in order to recover from whatever it is. And I sing a lot about light and dark, and in this it's kind of a reversal of roles. You know, I heard you singing my song, but the darkness feels so right. It's saying I gotta switch my tune and talk about and ending things so that maybe we can restart things in a better place.
Let us step into the darkness. Let's step into the darkness. I heard you singing in the street last night, singing my song, live long with the sweet life. I started singing but the words felt so wrong, singing that song when the darkness was so right. My sweet life, sweet love of mine, I never again feel like it's the right time. If it's the end, well, let's cross that line. Let us step into the darkness. Let's step into the darkness. If it's the end, well, let's cross that line. Let us step into the darkness. Let's step into the darkness.
We've got another song for you from Said the Whale coming up later in the show. But first, I sit down with Maggie Rogers to talk about her brush with fame, which led to her own eventual fame. About a year ago, a music student named Maggie Rogers showed up to class like she always did. Maggie was 22 years old and was enrolled at NYU's Tisch School of the Arts. Her big dream was to make it in music, singing and writing songs for a living. Little did Maggie know how that was about to happen. And it had a lot to do with this guy.
I have zero notes for that.
Yep, Pharrell Williams was visiting Maggie's class that morning to give students feedback on their music. But after Maggie sat down next to him and played one of her tracks, a song called Alaska, he didn't really have that much to say. not surprising too, because Maggie has actually been making music for a long time, since she was 7. Maggie Rogers' new EP, Now That the Light Is Fading, came out earlier this year, in February. Have a look. Let's talk a little bit about this video.
Sure,
I mean,
sure,
we got to
of course.
do it. So we just heard a little bit of that Pharrell video that went viral.
Wow. Wow. I have zero notes for that. And I'll tell you why. It's because you're doing your own thing.
I want to know, like, you can see, before we turned on the microphones, you said, I don't need to see the video, I was there for it. So I'm going to ask you, when the song was playing, not afterwards, but like when the song was playing, what was going through your head?
I pretty much picked a spot on the floor and stayed there.
What do you mean?
I just was looking at Pharrell's shoes most of the time. Well, I mean, I studied electronic production and engineering in college, and so sharing my work with my peers sort of in that way is something that, despite how uncomfortable it just is based on context, it's something I was really familiar with. That wasn't an unfamiliar situation, just like school. But inevitably, it's pretty uncomfortable to share your work in front of your peers because there's this whole, I try and stay pretty still so that my movement or, inflection in the song doesn't influence how my classmates are perceiving it because I'm really interested in their feedback. But there definitely is this element of like, pretend like you like the song. Don't like it too much. Like, pretend like you know what's coming next because you made it. Like,
But also there's a different kind of vulnerability because it's not like you were sitting down playing a beat for them. Like there was really meaningful lyrics. There was
Yeah.
something you had to. Let's just take a quick listen to the song.
Moving slowly through westward water, over glacial plains, in a walked off view, in a walked off an old me. Oh me, oh my, I thought it was a dream.
It's Maggie Rogers with Alaska, or just a little bit of it. Maggie, like I said, this isn't. It's one thing to show off any kind of creative work, like to show off an instrumental piece of music, to show off a beat is challenging enough. But then you have to show off some real vulnerabilities there in your own life. Was that harder?
again, it's what I went to school for. It's also just what I do.
The lyrics?
No.
That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the beat. I'm talking about like.
But I mean, I've studied production and engineering, and inevitably was using that to make songs.
Yeah.
And writing songs is something I've done since I was about 13. I inevitably find a lot of power in vulnerability. It's something that, it's almost like if I take away all my defenses and tell you exactly how I'm feeling, then how could you possibly hurt me? And inevitably, like, when you're vulnerable and feeling something really powerfully, if you can tap into its base emotion enough, I think that it's something that everybody feels.
Where does that come from? I mean, most people, when they have these thoughts about love or these thoughts about loss or these thoughts about confidence, they keep them in, or at least they find them hard to share.
I don't know. I mean, writing songs has always been just kind of like a form of mental health. It's just something that I've done since I was 13 as a way of processing my life. And I would write a song and about how I was feeling and then sort of play it till I felt better. And then, like when the lump in my throat sort of started to wear off when I was playing it, I would just write a new song.
You mentioned that you were staring at Pharrell's shoes and you picked a spot on the floor while the song was playing. After the song was playing, I think when I watch the video, I feel this sense of elation. Like before we met, I felt just so happy for you. Like I felt.
You.
But you know what I mean? Like I think we all just felt so happy that he recognized how good this was, and I can obviously tell that it meant something to you. Like what were you feeling afterwards?
I honestly don't have so many memories of that day. I think this has been true of most of my life. In moments where I'm incredibly present, I don't retain memory incredibly well. It just felt wild. But I didn't actually know that I didn't know that Pharrell was gonna be there that day, first of all, or that it was gonna be filmed or go on the internet. So after we had that encounter, I was sort of just like, okay, well, it's nice that what I'm doing is working. Like, I should just keep working on music. Inevitably, that's kind of what I've done, because this entire EP that I just released, I wrote all of those songs in March of my senior year of college. So they're over a year old at this point. And so I just kept working on music.
A friend of mine met Keith Urban recently, and he sang a song for him. And Keith Urban said, man, that's a great song. You're going to be really famous. And he said, I'm almost kind of sorry for you because there's nothing more beautiful in this world than anonymity. And you've been so quickly thrust into this world. How are you doing with it?
I'm okay.
Yeah?
I'm a little overwhelmed. I miss my bed right now. I'm
Yeah.
excited to be in Canada and really excited to play. And
No, I mean, I get it. You're
Yeah.
grateful, but
I'm so grateful. And also, I mean, like, the music's the only thing I've ever really wanted to do. It's a little bit faster than I'm comfortable with. But I think the beauty of everything that's happened is, like, you know, that video, I get to speak before you hear my music. And that's incredibly rare. So inevitably, while the pace might be a little bit overwhelming or you know, it just might be a little more attention than I'm comfortable with at my age, inevitably I was given the gift of I have the ability to be myself.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing that my audience inevitably really expects of me is for me to be me.
Mm-hmm.
And that ends up giving me an incredible amount of freedom to change and to grow and to just be silly or be vulgar or be, you know, to grow up and to just continue to find and make music that I find challenging and find exciting. And, you know, right now that's this sort of like dance, pop, whatever you feel like calling it. Next record might be a rock record. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still learning. And as far as, you know, you mentioned feeling like I'm missing out. Well, I just graduated from college in May.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, while there has been a lot of transition and change in my life, I always expected there to be at this moment. Like,
and it's not like you're backpacking Tibet right now. You're on the road. You're playing music.
Exactly.
It's incredible.
It's really incredible. And especially, you know, I made these songs to make me feel better. That's it. But to hear stories on the road of how these songs have helped other people feel better too, I mean, that's an incredible thing to be able to do.
I'm glad we were able to speak about more than just Alaska.
Yeah.
I'm glad we were able to speak about more than just the video. I'm happy we were able to talk about this really beautiful record that you made. But
Thank you.
but what about that? And like I'm not immune to what this is and the idea of doing press and the idea of using press. Are you starting to is talking about the video, is talking about Pharrell starting to wear on you at all?
No. I mean, well, yes and no. I totally understand. I mean, that's for so many people, that's where the story starts. And it is this crazy story.
Yeah.
Inevitably, and I've lived it all. I think often the misconception is made that Pharrell and I are good friends. We only really met in that video.
Yeah, right. No.
So people are always like, "Oh, what's Pharrell telling you these days?" And it's like, I haven't really spoken to him.
Right.
So it is an incredibly strange thing to have this powerful connection to somebody I don't know at all. But that's sort of my reality right now.
Maggie Rogers, it's been a real pleasure talking to you.
Thank you so much for having me.
When Q continues, Said the Whale have more music for you. But first, I talked to author Jeff Lemire about how Canada's North inspired his latest graphic novel, Roughneck. Did you ever think about how different you are from the person you were 5 or 10 years ago? I don't mean like your hair. I mean the stuff that's tougher to measure. I think the fastest way to figure it out is to go look at something you've made. Award-winning cartoonist Jeff Lemire can look back on his work for those kind of milestones. You may be familiar with Secret Path, the collaborative project that also included music by Tragically Hip frontman Gord Downie. But before Secret Path, Jeff was probably best known for a trilogy he published 10 years ago called Essex County. It was based on the place that Jeff grew up. Jeff Lemire's new book is called Roughneck, and he recently spoke to me about all the ways it reflects his current view of Canada. I really enjoyed our conversation. I hope you can check out Jeff Lemire. Jeff, congratulations on the book.
Thank you.
I read it last night. I want to talk a little bit more about graphic novels a little bit later. But first, I know you said that each book really marks the place you were in when you made it, and I know that's not geographically, but as a person. Roughneck is a book about this former NHL player. He's drinking and he's fighting and he's dealing with his family. He's in trouble with the law. I'm interested, given that you say these books reflect where you are. Where were you when you wrote Roughneck?
Yeah, it was an interesting time for me. I think I actually started Roughneck quite a while ago. It's been done for over a year, but we held on to it because Secret Path came out first, and we didn't want to put them out at the same time. So I think I started working on the book probably like 2012, 2013. Yeah, I mean, I was going through some stuff myself. I've kind of dealing with some things in my life I was trying to change, much like Derek, the character in the book. But, aside from that, there's a whole heap of fiction put on it as well. He's his own character in his own world, and you kind of create metaphors for things you're dealing with.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, but what about this particular story? Why did you want to tell this particular story?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm trying to think back. At the time, I had done Essex County. Well, now it's been about 10 or 12 years since I did that book. But
it doesn't seem that long ago.
I know, it's crazy. And, after that, especially when I go to the States, everyone sees it as sort of this epitome of Canadian fiction or something, And I that kind of lingered, that it is Canadian fiction, Essex County, but it's kind of an idealized I mean, I love the book. I'm very proud of Essex County, and I wouldn't do anything differently. But now I feel like my awareness of the country, of Canada, and what Canada is so much broader than it was back then. Instead of this sort of idealized, world of hockey and small towns.
What changed there?
I think I just started opening my mind a bit more to what other cultures in our First Nations and Indigenous people in Canada were going through, and how that had been something that wasn't even on my radar in the past.
I want to talk a little bit about Secret Path and Roughneck. You mentioned that you were writing Roughneck when Gord Downey approached you to write Secret Path. You kind of put Roughneck to the side and concentrated on Secret Path. Congratulations, by the way, on the Juno Awards.
Oh, thanks
for that project.
I only got into comics to win music awards, so
well, I'm glad.
It really worked out for me.
But you said that Secret Path and Roughneck are kind of linked, that they complement
really
one
are.
another. What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, I was creating them at the same time, so they can't help but be linked aesthetically, visually, especially. They look almost the same, I was about halfway, I think exactly halfway through Roughneck when I met with Gord and his brother Mike for the first time at my studio, and they've kind of laid out their idea for doing the Secret Path and told me about Channy Wenjack, and they asked what I was working on at the moment, and I kind of explained about Roughneck, and we just the thematic parallels and things they both kind of smiled to themselves, knowing I was already working on a book about the North and about First Nations, and then they were presenting this Secret Path to me. It all seemed fated that we work on it together at that time.
Well, some of the more interesting conversations that happened around Secret Path were you and Gord talking about how in many ways this wasn't your story to tell, and you had to be very cautious in the way that you told it. Roughneck, again, deals with Indigenous issues. I should say, if you're listening to this on the radio and not watching it, you're not an Indigenous person.
No.
You're a white person from Southern Ontario.
Yeah.
What do you see as your role in speaking about Indigenous issues in your work?
I don't know that I have a rule, and I don't even know if I should have done the books, to be honest with you.
Do you ever feel that way?
I always feel that way, yeah. It's not my story to tell. None of these stories are. And
So what keeps you doing it?
Because you get it in your head, you fall in love with the story, and you just have to do it for good, for better or for worse. It's not going to let you go. This character of Derek and his sister come to life inside me, and just like Channy, the fictional version of Channy did. And once they're in there, you just got to get it out. So
what a strange feeling that must be to work so hard on something and then release it and then go, I don't really know if I should be putting this out.
Well, yeah, it is strange, and it's something new for me because I really don't feel like these are my stories to tell. But at the same time, you look at the impact Secret Path has had, and the fact that it's going to be in, I think, every school in Ontario next year, and you'll have all these children learning about residential schools who had never heard of them before. Gord and I grew up not learning about them in school at all, which is why we wanted to do it in the first place. And then you look at that, and I think, well, it was worth it. Maybe it's not my story to tell, but it's done some good, and also the fact that Channy's family, the Wenjack sisters, embraced us and endorsed the project and supported everything we did. It makes me feel like it's okay that we did it. If his family's okay with it, then I'm okay with it.
Well, Jeff Lemire, I've read 2 graphic novels, and they've both been yours. So thank you.
You should stop there. It doesn't get any better.
You know what? I'll give it up there. It's all over now. Jeff Lemire, thanks so much for speaking with us.
Okay, thanks.
We've got another terrific performance from Said the Whale for you when Q returns. We're going to leave you today with another uplifting performance from Said the Whale. Remember, for more performances, uncut interviews, full episodes of QTV, why don't you pay us a visit at the old internet, cbc.ca/Q. I'm Tom Power. Later on.
I wanna be the comfort in your company. I wanna be the comfort in your company.